I found her diary after she died. Grief does strange things to time. Some days feel like years. Others pass without leaving a trace. After she died, it all became a blur, me moving from room to room like I was stuck in the wrong dream. I spoke when people asked things. I nodded. I signed papers. I said thank you to casseroles I'd never eat, but nothing really registered. Until I found the box. It was tucked away on the highest shelf in her old study, behind a stack of dusty sketchbooks she hadn't touched in years. I wasn't looking for anything, just wandering, lost in her things, maybe hoping for a trace of her scent, a memory that didn't hurt. But I found the box instead. It was plain, shoebox-sized, worn at the edges, the kind of thing you might pass over 100 times without a second thought. But there was something about the way it sat there, deliberate, like it had been placed and not forgotten. I pulled it down and blew off the dust. Inside, there was a diary. It wasn't the first I'd seen. She used to keep stacks of them, half-filled notebooks with poetry, sketches, and rants about things no one but her could fully understand. But this one was different. It wasn't chaotic or scribbled. It was clean, dated, labeled. It started 4 months before she died. I sat down on the floor, the box beside me, and opened the first page. September 3rd. I don't want to lie anymore, not even on paper. So this will be real, even if it's ugly, even if it makes me feel worse, maybe especially then. Her handwriting was neat, careful, like she wanted every word to last. He doesn't see it. The way I've started to disappear, the way everything in me is folding in on itself. I don't think it's his fault. That's the worst part. I love him. I really do. But sometimes love isn't a rescue. It's a wait. I stopped reading. I wasn't ready for this. The air around me shifted. I could feel the weight of the words before they even settled. It wasn't a diary. It was a confession. And part of me wanted to close it, put it back, pretend I hadn't found it. But another part, one I didn't want to admit existed, needed to know what she'd hidden. Because she hadn't told me any of this when she was alive. The second entry was worse. September 10th. I smiled today. I laughed at his joke. I let him kiss me. He thinks we're okay. That breaks my heart more than anything, because it means I'm good at pretending. And I hate that I've become someone who pretends in their own home. She never pretended with me. At least, I didn't think she did. But what do we really see in people we love? What do we miss? I read for hours. Each page was a slow unraveling. Not of our relationship, but of her. Her thoughts spiraling inward. Her silence in real life matched by an overflow of truth in ink. She wrote about her fears, her exhaustion, how she'd lie awake at night wondering if she'd ever feel like herself again. She wrote about me. He brings me tea every night. Always the same mug, always warm hands. He thinks that's enough, and maybe it should be. But I need something I can't name, and I'm afraid I'll never find it here. I set the diary down and rested my forehead against my knees. It wasn't anger I felt, or even betrayal, just a sharp, aching loneliness. The kind that comes from realizing you are only ever part of the picture, never the whole frame. When I looked back into the box, I saw something tucked beneath the diary. A photo. It was of the two of us at the cabin last winter, snow in her hair, me behind her, arms around her shoulders. She was smiling, but not at the camera, at something far off, something I never saw, and written on the back in faint pencil were the words, "I wish I could freeze this version of us." I stared at it for a long time, because I recognized that moment. I remember thinking she looked happy. I didn't know she was already saying goodbye. I didn't sleep that night. The diary sat on the coffee table like it was breathing, like it might whisper something if the room got quiet enough. I kept catching myself staring at it, wondering what page I'd left her on. Not the day she died, not the funeral, but this version of her, the one who had been writing all along in secret while I sat next to her on the couch thinking everything was fine. I picked it up again around 2 a.m., my hands trembling just a little. The next entry started like this. October 2nd. He's started to notice. He asked me last night if something was wrong. I told him no. Lied right to his face. I could see it in his eyes. He didn't believe me, but he didn't push. He never pushes. That's why it's so hard. He's kind. He's gentle. And I'm slipping away from him anyway. I didn't know how to read my own face in her words. Was I a coward for not pushing harder? Or was I just trying to give her space, the kind I thought she needed? I keep thinking I'm broken. Like there's something in me that's been cracked for years and now it's just leaking. I smile and it feels like paper. I talk and the words sound like they belong to someone else. I miss who I was, but I don't know how to find her again. And I don't want to drag him into that mess. That entry haunted me, because I remembered that night. I remembered the look she gave me when I asked. I told myself she was just tired, that work had been hard, that she'd be okay tomorrow. But she wasn't tired. She was disappearing. I kept reading. The entries got shorter after that. Not because she had less to say, but because her voice was changing. The words were heavier, less like explanations, more like echoes. She was writing to remember herself, or maybe to leave something behind, in case she couldn't. October 19th. He made me breakfast this morning. He always adds cinnamon, just the way I like it. I almost cried when I smelled it, not because I was happy, but because I didn't deserve it. Because I don't know how to tell someone who loves you that their love isn't enough. Maybe it never was. I stopped and closed the book. I didn't want to read that line again, because that was the first time I let the anger in, not at her, but at the world, at the silence, at the fact that she lived in the same house as me and still felt completely alone, and I never knew. Later that morning, I found something strange. I was moving the diary back into the box when I noticed a folded envelope underneath it. It had no name, just one word in her handwriting. Later. I didn't open it. I don't know why. Maybe I was scared. Maybe some part of me thought she meant it for a moment when I was ready to really hear her. Maybe that moment hadn't come yet. But I held it for a long time, pressed it between my hands like it might warm up, like it might change something. The final entry in the diary was dated 1 week before she died. November 5th. Today was a good day. That scares me. We went to the bookstore and got coffee after. He picked up that stupid thriller I always make fun of. I rolled my eyes and he grinned like a kid. For a second, I felt real again. Not healed, not fixed, but real. I don't know what that means yet, but I'm writing it down so I don't forget it happened. That was the last thing she wrote. Not a goodbye, not a scream for help, just a fragile little moment where she felt alive again, and it broke me more than anything else in the book. Because I remembered that day. I remembered how she smiled and said she didn't need a receipt. I remembered thinking she was turning a corner, that maybe we were okay, but it was just a glimpse, just a moment. I put the diary back in the box, but I kept the envelope in my pocket, because whatever it said, it was meant for me. And I wasn't ready to let go without hearing her voice one last time. It took me 3 more days to open the envelope. I kept it in my coat pocket like a secret, touching it every now and then just to know it was still there. I told myself I needed time, that I wanted the moment to be right. But the truth was simpler. I was scared. Scared of what she might say, scared of the finality of it. Once I opened that letter, there'd be nothing else to find. No more breadcrumbs to follow, no more excuses to hold on. Just her words, just the end. I opened it on a Wednesday. It was raining. I sat at the kitchen table, the one she used to write her grocery lists on, the one where she'd hum while cutting fruit, the one that still had a faint coffee stain shaped like a crescent moon. I placed the envelope in front of me, took a breath that felt too big, and slid my finger beneath the seal. Inside was a single piece of paper, folded in thirds, and her handwriting, so familiar it hurt. If you're reading this, it means I couldn't say it out loud. I tried. I practiced in the shower. I rehearsed in my head while you slept beside me. But every time I looked at you, the words disappeared, because I didn't want to hurt you. And that's the problem. I spent so much time trying not to hurt you that I ended up hurting myself. You didn't do anything wrong. That's what I need you to understand. You were soft where the world was hard. You were patient when I was chaos. You showed up every day, even when I didn't know how to ask you to. But I was drowning anyway. And I knew that if I didn't leave, I'd take you under with me. I needed to go. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I stopped loving who I became when I couldn't speak. When I had to smile instead of scream. When I wrote my truth in notebooks instead of saying it out loud. You loved me in every way you could, and I'll carry that forever. I just hope one day you can remember me with softness, not anger. With warmth, not confusion. With the version of me that laughed at your terrible book choices and sang off-key on road trips. That's still me. Somewhere. Thank you for letting me go without asking why. Even if you didn't mean to. I love you. I'm sorry. I'm free. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there, holding the letter, feeling like the room had exhaled. Like she was in the chair across from me, waiting to see how I'd react. But she wasn't. And yet, in some way, she was more present than she'd been in months. She had written her goodbye, and I'd finally heard it. Later that night, I lit a candle. I placed the letter in the same box as the diary, gently, like it was glass. I didn't lock it. I didn't seal it away, I just let it rest. And for the first time since she left, I didn't feel lost. I felt left with something. A truth. A goodbye. A love that didn't end with the leaving. Weeks passed. I moved her books into storage, donated her coats, kept the one she wore every fall, the soft green one that still smelled faintly of lavender and rain. I didn't try to forget her. I just stopped trying to hold her in place. She wasn't a ghost, she was a chapter, and chapters are meant to be read, not relived. The box now sits on a shelf in my closet. I don't open it often, but every now and then when the silence gets too loud or the air feels just a little too still, I reach for it. Not to relive the pain, but to remember the love that was real, even if it didn't last the way I thought it would. And when I hold that letter in my hands, I hear her voice again, not saying goodbye, but saying, "Remember me like this,